Shedeur Sanders forces the Browns to rethink quarterback decisions as Dillon Gabriel fails to impress. It was supposed to be just another day of training camp in Berea, Ohio. Pads cracking, quarterbacks throwing, rookies hoping to stand out. But July 27th became the turning point, not because of a headline-grabbing touchdown or a locker room controversy, but because of a shift, a moment of subtle transformation. Kenny Pickett, the former Super Bowl-winning backup expected to solidify the Browns' QB2 spot, limped off the field mid-rep, tweaking his hamstring. The groan that echoed wasn't just about physical pain. It was the gasp of opportunity being handed to someone else. That someone was Shedeur Sanders. The rookie quarterback, son of NFL legend and Colorado head coach Deion Sanders, hadn't been handed much since arriving in Cleveland. Drafted 144th overall, despite having a senior year stat line of over 4,100 passing yards and 37 touchdowns. Shedeur entered a crowded quarterback room full of storylines and skeptics. Joe Flacco, the veteran. Kenny Pickett, the redemption project. Dillon Gabriel, the polished third-rounder. And then Shedeur, the fifth-round project pick many thought was a media play more than a strategic one. But football doesn't care about narratives. Football cares about production. And suddenly, Shedeur Sanders started producing at a level that forced everyone, from analysts to teammates to ownership, to pay attention. Cecil Shorts, former NFL wide receiver and now a respected analyst on Cleveland's 92.3 The Fan, didn't hold back. "I'll be honest with you," he said on air. "I've never seen what Shedeur Sanders is doing this early on in a player's career." That wasn't hyperbole. It was a warning shot to the league. On day 4 of Browns camp, Shedeur delivered what ESPN Cleveland called his best statistical performance. He completed 8 of 11 passes with 3 touchdowns and 0 turnovers. But where many rookies plateau, Shedeur accelerated. Just days later, he went 9 for 9 in padded drills, again with 2 touchdowns. One of them came against the first-team defense. A deep ball to rookie receiver Luke Floria that drew cheers and side eyes from coaches alike. Still, Shedeur wasn't elevated to full first-team reps. Kevin Stefanski, the head coach known for being conservative with rookies, kept Sanders in second-team red zone situations and 11 on 11 packages. But momentum has a funny way of seeping through the cracks of protocol. The more Sanders executed, the more difficult it became to relegate him to the background. After practice on July 29th, while cleats came off and players retreated to the air-conditioned locker rooms, one quarterback stayed on the field, helmet still on, throwing passes into the afternoon air. "Shedeur Sanders still out here," tweeted Browns insider Brad Stainbrook. "Practice ended 10 minutes ago." This wasn't new behavior. In June minicamp, Fox 8's John Sabol reported Sanders stayed behind 20 minutes after practice. That's not just dedication. That's obsession. That's a rookie out to prove that being picked 144th overall was the NFL's mistake, not his. And while Shedeur was quietly dominating, his rookie counterpart, Dillon Gabriel, was beginning to unravel under pressure. Gabriel started the July 29th practice strong, moving smoothly through pocket progressions, showing command of the huddle. But football is a game of moments, and his moment turned sour. In a red zone drill, Browns cornerback Cameron Mitchell baited Gabriel into a throw. The ball lingered. Mitchell jumped it. Interception. End zone. Play over. On the sideline, watching the play unfold, Browns owner Jimmy Haslam. Haslam had already stirred the pot weeks earlier when he distanced himself from the Sanders draft pick. "Andrew Barry made the call," Haslam said, attempting to sidestep speculation that the selection was owner-motivated. But Haslam's sideline presence on that day was hard to ignore. He watched Gabriel throw the pick. He watched Sanders throw dimes. And most importantly, he watched the QB room dynamic begin to shift in real time. Statistically, the contrast between the rookies is now stark. Sanders on July 27th, 8 for 11, 3 touchdowns, 0 turnovers. Gabriel on July 27th, 8 for 15, 1 touchdown, 0 picks. Sanders on July 29th, 9 for 9, 2 touchdowns. Gabriel on July 29th, 8 for 12, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. In a quarterback room with little margin for error, these stats aren't just numbers. They're leverage. They're proof. And for Gabriel, the ground is shrinking. That doesn't mean Dillon Gabriel is without value. His resume 49 college starts, over 14,000 passing yards, and success at multiple programs still commands respect. But his problem isn't history, it's the present. While Shedeur is stacking consistent reps, Gabriel is oscillating between moments of promise and mistakes that rookie QBs can't afford to make. And Shedeur? He's keeping it cool. Not once has he demanded more reps. Not once has he questioned the depth chart. Instead, he's given the media nothing but humility. "You gotta be ready for everything," he said, and he is. Even more impressive, he asked his father not to attend training camp. No distractions was the message. No cameras, no attention, no Coach Prime headlines. Just Shedeur, putting in the work, chasing a job, grinding like an undrafted free agent, despite the weight of expectation on his shoulders. Kevin Stefanski now finds himself at a crossroads. Publicly, he's downplayed the idea of a shifting depth chart. But privately, multiple team sources suggest the tone around Sanders has changed. The coaching staff is watching. The players are responding. The media is buzzing. And the owner? He's definitely paying attention. Ken Carman of 92.3 The Fan recently said on air, "Sanders is going to get his chance, first-team reps or not." That prediction is now on the verge of being fulfilled. With Joe Flacco expected to start the Hall of Fame game and Kenny Pickett sidelined indefinitely, the battle for QB2 is now between Gabriel and Sanders. And right now, Sanders is winning it. Not just statistically, but emotionally. The locker room is starting to believe. The fan base is rallying. And the coaching staff is being backed into a corner by the one thing that always wins in football: performance. There are still weeks to go, preseason games to play, reps to rotate, but as of this moment, Shedeur Sanders has moved from nice story to serious contender. And Dillon Gabriel? He's on the clock. Reputation won't save anyone now, only results will. And Shedeur Sanders is writing his result in bold. Shedeur Sanders falls for Kevin Stefanski's trap as Dillon Gabriel loses ground in Browns QB war. Cleveland, Ohio. The 6th day of Cleveland Browns training camp was anything but routine. Beneath the surface of typical red zone drills and playbook tests, a high-stakes quarterback competition continued to unfold with growing intensity. Rookie quarterbacks Shedeur Sanders and Dillon Gabriel, once hopeful of an open shot at carving out their future in Cleveland, now find themselves entangled in a chess game far more complex than anticipated, one orchestrated by head coach Kevin Stefanski. For fans hoping for a fresh face under center in 2025, the ongoing battle between Sanders and Gabriel is beginning to look more like a trap than an opportunity, especially for Sanders. What once looked like a genuine competition has turned into a tightly scripted hierarchy, with veteran Joe Flacco calmly holding the lead, Gabriel clinging to a fragile second-place grip, and Sanders, despite his flashes of brilliance, fighting for recognition amid mixed messages from the Browns coaching staff. The Stefanski question: when the clock is running low, what can you do when the clock is running low? Kevin Stefanski posed that very question to his quarterbacks on day 6, a subtle yet seismic inquiry into who could truly handle pressure. Stefanski wasn't just testing football IQ. He was scanning for field generals, decision-makers who could execute cleanly with seconds on the clock and chaos all around. For Shedeur Sanders and Dillon Gabriel, it was the perfect test. But the results only added to the growing complexity. Yahoo Sports reported that Dillon Gabriel finished his pressure set with the first team by throwing a costly interception as time expired. That brought his final stat line for the day to 10 of 16, good for a 62.5% completion rate but with 0 touchdowns and that one glaring mistake. Though Gabriel had shown promise in earlier practices, this performance only fueled doubts about his ability to rise to the moment. Just a few days earlier, on Saturday, Gabriel had completed 8 of 15 passes with 1 touchdown and no interceptions. But those numbers had been increasingly offset by missed opportunities, suspect timing, and an inability to elevate his receivers. Shedeur Sanders. The numbers say one thing, the reps say another. In contrast, Shedeur Sanders' raw numbers should be pushing him up the depth chart, not chaining him to the third team. On Saturday, the former Colorado standout had a breakout day, going 8 of 11 with 3 touchdowns and no interceptions. On Tuesday, he followed that up with a stunning 9-for-9 passing display and 2 more touchdowns during the first padded practice of camp. Yet Stefanski's coaching staff hasn't rewarded that production with first-team reps. On day 6, Shedeur finally got a taste of second-team action, but stumbled under the weight of expectation. Like Gabriel, he couldn't convert in the 30-second red zone drill. 2 incomplete passes and a sack on 4th down summed up a disappointing sequence. The same drill, the same disappointment, Yahoo Sports wrote. And yet, while Gabriel was granted reps with the first team, Sanders' ceiling appeared to be capped, even after outperforming Gabriel across multiple prior days. The optics aren't lost on fans and analysts. Despite Sanders' clear statistical advantage, he remains boxed into a lower tier, one that threatens to bury his potential beneath a depth chart that seems anything but fluid. Gabriel's rise. Earned or engineered? The Browns' decision to elevate Dillon Gabriel over Shedeur Sanders following Kenny Pickett's hamstring injury has drawn questions. Is Gabriel truly outperforming Sanders? Or is this a case of the coaching staff sticking to a preconceived script? Gabriel's camp story has been inconsistent. On Tuesday, he completed just 6 of 9 passes, with no touchdowns or interceptions. A safe line, but uninspiring. And while Gabriel did take over second-team reps after Pickett's injury, he hasn't proven definitively that he deserves the promotion. Even in moments where Sanders outshined him statistically, the reps didn't follow. This has led many to speculate whether Sanders has fallen into a political trap, a decision by Stefanski that keeps him from advancing no matter how well he plays. Joe Flacco, calm in the chaos. Meanwhile, the QB that no one seems to be worried about is the one most likely to start Week 1, Joe Flacco. The 17-year NFL veteran returned to camp on day 6 after sitting out a couple of sessions and promptly showed why he remains the Browns' safety net. During a 2-minute drill with the first team, Flacco pulled off a vintage play. Facing 3rd down, he scrambled left after finding no open receivers. With the defense keyed in on a pass, Flacco tucked the ball and ran it to the opposing 42-yard line, picking up the first down. This was more than a highlight. It was a statement. Flacco, despite his age, continues to handle pressure better than anyone else on the roster. As Noah Monroe of ClevelandBrowns.com wrote, Flacco's command of the moment elevated the entire offense. With Kenny Pickett nursing a hamstring and uncertainty surrounding the younger quarterbacks, Flacco's stability could be what ultimately holds the team together. The IR factor, when the dominoes fall. There's also the issue of roster logistics. If the Browns choose to place Kenny Pickett on injured reserve ahead of the regular season, that will open up a crucial backup slot. That spot will likely go to either Gabriel or Sanders, whoever wins the coach's confidence in the final weeks of camp. On paper, Sanders should be that man. With a 72% completion rate and multiple flawless performances, he's looked every bit the composed, dynamic playmaker that Cleveland hoped to find in the later rounds of the draft. But actions speak louder than words, and reps speak louder than stats. And for now, it's Gabriel, despite lesser production, who's getting the spotlight. Falling into the trap. For Sanders, the emotional roller coaster of training camp hasn't just been about playing football. It's been about fighting perception. Perception that he's not ready. Perception that he's Coach Prime's son, before he's a legitimate NFL talent. Perception that a flashy thrower doesn't translate to a dependable pro quarterback. But perhaps the most dangerous perception is the one crafted internally. The notion that no matter what he does, he's not the safe choice. That's the trap. The invisible line separating reps from results. Stefanski's trap doesn't come in the form of outright dismissal, but in the subtle, daily decisions. Who gets first-team snaps, who runs the red zone drill, who finishes practice throwing to the top receivers. And in that space, Sanders finds himself stuck. producing more, receiving less. Fans want a shakeup. Across Cleveland, fans are watching the battle with growing impatience. The excitement surrounding Sanders entering the Browns organization was palpable. His swagger, his efficiency, his social media presence, and yes, the legacy of being Deion Sanders' son. But now, those same fans are starting to question if the Browns truly ever intended to give Shedeur a real shot. Social media has been buzzing. Tweets have called out the coaching staff for favoritism. Browns forums are filled with fans begging for Sanders to get a full game's worth of second-team reps. Even some local analysts have voiced confusion over the decision-making process. What comes next? Stefanski on the clock. For Kevin Stefanski, the time to make a definitive quarterback decision is fast approaching. Joe Flacco may start week 1, but who backs him up, and who becomes the Browns' QB of the future, remains up in the air. If Pickett isn't placed on IR, the Browns may carry 3 quarterbacks: Flacco, Pickett, and 1 rookie. But that choice could define Stefanski's tenure in Cleveland. Favoring the wrong young quarterback could cost the team future wins and cost Stefanski his job. And with each day that passes, the evidence mounts in Sanders' favor, even if the opportunities don't. The bottom line, as training camp progresses, the quarterback room in Cleveland continues to be a crucible, testing not only the arms of its young players but the integrity of its coaching decisions. Dillon Gabriel may have been handed the number 2 role temporarily, but his inconsistent performances are starting to wear thin. Shedeur Sanders, though statistically superior, remains an enigma, both to fans and to his own coaching staff. Joe Flacco, calm and composed, remains the rock amid the storm. The battle is far from over, and while Gabriel may have lost some momentum, Sanders now finds himself in a trap only Stefanski can spring him from. The clock may be ticking, but in Cleveland, the real question remains unanswered. Will the Browns make the right call before it's too late?